Good afternoon and welcome to today's Driver's Ed session. Please sign in under comments, text your name that you are here. Let's have a little bit of applause. Yes, we are halfway through online Driver's Ed after today. So today is our midterm. So at the end of today's lesson, I will be giving people a link that they can click on, and the term I ask that you try to do it on an honor system. It's to know whether you know the material or not. I have no idea why my headphones aren't working, but good afternoon. Boy, we're getting right into it. Almost got a full class. Just about everybody's here. So let me get out of this. So at some point after, I'm going to take out my headphones because they're not really working. I don't know why. But today at the beginning is going to be somewhat of a heavy note day for what we're covering. I do have a couple homemade videos about parking, but for the most part, we're going to start with an overview of what the state requires, not only in a driving test, but basic principles of regulating our roadways to keep them open and free so we don't interfere with cars that are on the road. So where we're going to be able to park and can't park and things like that. So please get out some paper, something to write with, and we'll get right into it. So let's see if I've got everything that I need to. Whoop, nope, don't need that. That's my backdrop. There we go. That's it. Okay. So the first thing I want to mention, and let's see if I've got this open where I can. Parking is all about technique. It's all about tips to make you a better parker. There are many ways that you can park a vehicle. The way that I always try to explain it, if I'm really into sports, there are so many baseball teams, professional baseball teams. I think there's like 32. And every single team has their own hitting coach. Now, everybody knows in baseball, there's a ball, there's a bat, and you're putting the ball in play. But the way that you approach, how you grip the bat, how you stand at home plate, how you approach when the ball is coming, do you lower your right leg down, do you lift up halfway through the ball coming into the plate? And parking is almost the same thing because there is an approach, there is turning of the wheel and the speed of the car. So there are different ways that people will explain it. So I basically want you to know that the way that I'm explaining it is not the only way to do it. You've got to find out what is comfortable for you. So let's go through some general terms. So the first thing I want you to write down is that if you look at any mall or grocery store, there's going to be signs regulating what you can do. And a lot of times you'll see there will be no stopping, standing, or parking in this particular area. So we all know what parking is. We know how we drive into a spot between lines. We turn our car off. We get out of our vehicle. We lock it. So we understand parking. But how about stopping and standing? So here's the definition. No standing means you can stop to let people out of the car or pick up someone who is already there, but no waiting for someone or loading or unloading. So this would be in front of a supermarket. Remember it as people only. No stopping is the most restrictive. You can't stop at the curb for any reason you can think of. And a lot of times this may be like at an airport because they want the constant flow of traffic. So they don't want people stopping there. Now, there may be portions near an airport where standing is allowed. So be very careful when you take a look at these signs. So what would the color of the sign be? Now, we already had a lesson on this, so we know white means law. It means regulation. But here's the key. It is going to be in red lettering or green lettering. Red lettering is telling us that we can't do something. Green lettering is telling us when something is applicable, like parking between 8 and 5 for 2 hours. So we know our time slot when we're going to be able to park. Now, it's going to probably be very hard to read what's underneath this picture, but basically this is taken from the Boston Globe. And at the very top of the picture, I wanted you to take note of this, is that in major cities where they have these signs, they make a ton of money towing vehicles. In this article, it says 90,000 cars are towed away in Boston each year. And at the bottom of the article, it says the cost is 131. So if you do the math, that is a ton of money. Now, we live in rural New Hampshire. Now, in Durham, which is a college town, I think most of you know, at Durham Marketplace, you cannot park unless you're using one of those facilities. The cafe, the grocery store, the restaurant, the bank, Domino's. So college kids that leave their vehicle there and think they're going to go to class will be towed, or they'll have a boot put on their vehicle. So this is something that we do encounter even in our little town of Durham. How about parking in front of a fire hydrant? We have to keep these areas clear. So here they busted out the window so they could get the hose. And by the way, okay, they do not have to pay for the replacement of those windows. You're parked illegally, they're within their right to bust out the windows. And a lot of people have said, well, why can't they put the hose underneath the vehicle or over the top of the vehicle? It may cause too much of a crimp in the hose. So the easiest way is to have it on a level plane, and that is basically taking it right through the window. So I thought this was kind of a funny picture, so that's why I wanted to include it in today's lesson. Now, how close can you park to another car? Now, this is what I want you to write down. You should have enough distance that you can open up your door safely without hitting another vehicle. But technically, as you can see in this picture, as long as you're not hitting another car, you're okay. Now, this may seem odd to you, but these two vehicles belong to the owner, and they did this on purpose to squeeze more cars. I believe this is in like a downtown area of a city. So they're basically like probably 2 inches away. So that begs the question, if there was a distance, how far away should we be? You should probably be a distance 2 feet or more. Most doors, you're going to need at least 2 feet to open up your door adequately to get out. Now, as we said earlier, depending on the type of vehicle that you're driving, larger cars are going to be wider and take up more space. Smaller cars, the opposite. So this is what I want you to write down in your notes. When you get to drive on your own, be very particular of who you park next to. Now, I know cars are going to come, cars are going to leave, but if you're knowing that you're in a parking lot where people are going to be staying, let's just use the school for an example. Now, I guess with school, they're going to regulate the number and the spot that you have, so maybe this might not work. But let's just say work. When you come out, the car that you park next to will probably still be there. So be very careful about parking next to large trucks, vans. Not only are they wider, but they have a hard time seeing. Their turning radius is not the same. You're going to probably encounter more problems parking next to those large vehicles than you would a smaller car. So be very choosy. And most people don't think about that. They never think about what it's going to be like when they get out of the vehicle opening the door and leaving when they have to leave the particular parking spot. They only think about how close they are to the door of where they've got to enter the facility. And I want you to start thinking about, maybe I shouldn't take the closest spot. Maybe I should take a spot where people aren't going to be parking next to me. So let's go through some key points to parking. Move as far away from traffic as possible. So we're talking about pulling over to the side of the road, and where there's a curb, you should be about 1 foot away from the curb. That's going to allow you as the driver to check your mirror, look over your shoulder, and open up your door. Now you want to do that, of course, when no traffic is coming. When you leave your vehicle, lock it, secure it, make sure the car can't move. I always tell students that if I'm not on level ground, if I'm on level ground, I'm not using my parking brake. But if my car is pointing uphill, or if my car is pointing downhill, I am going to set the parking brake. And the other thing is, you may want to write this down. I got to look at the new manual. I still haven't memorized it. Um, Always turn your wheel where it's going to go towards the curb. So if you're going downhill, you're turning your wheels to the right when you park. When you're going uphill, you're turning your wheels to the left because it will go backwards. So the front tires are going to roll. The front right tire is going to cram up against the curb, prevent it from rolling if you've got that 1 foot. And if you're parking downhill with no curb, you're turning your wheels to the right. That's going to, if your car is a manual transmission and it comes out of gear, it's going to go off into the soft shoulder and not into traffic. When it says park as close to the curb as you possibly can, this was from an editorial from Foster's newspaper, probably, goodness now, 20 years maybe. An elderly gentleman from Somersworth was 18 inches from the curb. He actually measured it. He came back, he went out for breakfast. When he came back to his vehicle, he was given a ticket. He had paid the meter, so he legally could park there. The problem was that he was too far away from the curb. So here's a parking person that took their job a little bit too seriously. I would not give a person, as long as their car is not out of their parking spot, impeding traffic, I think this guy should have had a pass. And I think being 18 inches away from the curb, now I don't know what kind of vehicle he was driving, but I'd almost bet he was on the line, but not out into the road. So it's a little bit much giving a person a ticket because he paid the meter, but his car was 18 inches away. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Parking by the side of the road. You must be off the paved main travel portion of the road or it will be towed. This is the one I want you to write down in this bullet right here. If it is not possible to pull completely off the road, you must be seen by 200 feet in both directions. Cars need to know when they come up over a hill or around a corner that there is going to be a problem. So try not to stop and park your car on a hill, curve, or any highway where people don't have adequate time and space. Remember we talked about left of center, right of center. You're going to force people into these other positions than being centered in their lane. I think we've covered using your parking lights, not emergency lights. So parking lights are when you're still. This would be for standing. Okay, remember we had just talked about standing. So basically you're picking somebody up or dropping them off. The car is still running. You're in the vehicle. You're going to put your parking lights on. That's telling people that at any moment the lights could come off using your signal and you're going to pull back out into traffic. So it's really giving people an idea that there's a car that could move. Let me tell you a funny story that a police officer from Durham told me, is that anytime that you use your emergency lights, the police are supposed to pull over and find out what your problem is. So if you're taking a phone call, checking something in your notes or something, you probably should use your parking lights. Well, this officer told me that he saw someone with emergency lights on, so he decided to pull over and find out what the problem was. And as he walked up to the vehicle and knocked on the window and asked the person what was the problem, the driver rolled down his window and a large billowing cloud of marijuana smoke came out from inside the vehicle. Apparently he was smoking as he was driving, which he shouldn't have been doing, and he had dropped his joint. It was on the floor, and now this individual was being written up for driving under the influence of an illegal drug. And the officer told me that if he had his parking light on, not his emergency lights on, he probably would have kept on driving. He would have never stopped. Thought that was kind of a different way of looking at parking lights and emergency lights. Now, the police officer, if you leave your car unattended, it will be towed. So put your name, your telephone number, call the police. I don't think they've got this number in the manual anymore, and I don't know if you really need it or not, but it's not a 911 situation. So this is why you're calling this 1-800 number. It's just telling the police, I've got a flat tire. My dad's coming back with me in about 2-3 hours, and we've got a spare tire, or we're missing a jack. We got a jack now. We'll be able to take care of the car. So, and I always tell students after driver's ed, now you don't have a manual, you're looking at a PDF online, but once you well, geez, I don't know if we're not getting back to school. How am I going to get this to you? When you go for your license, okay, ask for a manual. Yep, that's what I would do. I'd ask for a manual, and I'd just throw it in my trunk, just like you've got a car manual in your glove compartment. Because if anything happens and you're not quite sure what to do, this would be a good source of information. Okay? So the emergency number to call is 1-800-525-5555. And that's going to get you to a dispatcher, and you can tell them the situation of your car breaking down and that you're going to tend to it in a fair amount of time. Can't be there, I believe, anything more than 24 hours, or you're gonna get towed. So all of these are common sense. All right. So parking alongside another vehicle, that's called being double parked. Now you may want to put this in your notes. Most of you that live in the Durham area, have driven downtown Durham, you know this. That delivery trucks, like a Frito-Lay truck, a UPS truck, can stop and park in the flow of traffic. Okay, that's double parking right next to another car that's parallel parked. But they have to make that delivery, and I'm not quite sure about the time. It could be 10 minutes they may have to get off the truck, bring in the delivery, and come back out and move it. So there may come a time when you're parked downtown, you come out to move your vehicle, you're not going to be able to because there's a delivery truck right beside you. Just rest assured that he's going to come and he's going to take care of it within a short period of time. Can't park on a sidewalk, intersection, crosswalk, bridge. These are all common sense. Now we're going to get into highway, tunnel, blocks traffic or is a hazard to others on the roadway, on any street where there's not enough clearance for other vehicles to pass in front of a driveway. So these last two slides are basically what I consider common sense. Now we get into numbers. So this is what you're going to have to know. Okay, and I will test you on at least one of these. Maybe not later today on the midterm, but definitely on the final. As I told you, anything dealing with fire, with driving, there's going to be a 5 in the number. So 15 feet from a fire hydrant. Now 15 feet also translates into, if you can remember back to that picture we saw earlier, that's about the length of a parallel parking spot, from front line to back line. 20 feet of a crosswalk, 30 feet of a stop sign, yield sign, or traffic control signal, 20 feet on the fire station entrance, but 75 on the opposite. Now, the reason why it's not the same is because a fire truck will always leave the station and take a wider turn. So when he goes out to make that wide turn, he needs that additional feet. So 20, you're not going to interfere with the trucks, but you've got to remember, if you're parking on the opposite side from where the fire station building is, you've got to be that 75 feet. 50 feet on the nearest rail of the railroad crossing. We kind of talked about that with stopping and parking. Handicapped parking, we know it's a blue sign. It's going to be right out in the front of the building. They're going to have what they call an access aisle. It's going to be a cross-hatched area that vans that are bringing people that are handicapped, They may have someone in a wheelchair and they need some distance to get the lift up and down with the wheelchair. So and I'm not going to test you on the fine here. So just, I give this for your own information. $250. It can go that high, but it starts off at 50, then 100, and then 250 for your third offense. And remember, those access aisles are going to be yellow or white with a diagonal striped line. And it could be on either side because we don't know which side in the back. Usually it's going to be on the right of a parking spot, but every once in a while you'll have it on the left too. I do want you to write this down because I think this is important. And there's a term that we have about someone that's tattling on somebody. We call them a snitch. I don't think you're snitching on somebody if someone's parking in a parking spot that they're not supposed to, if it's a handicapped spot. Law states that you have to have a blue handicap sign hanging from your rearview mirror, something that's attached to the front windshield, or it's on your license plate. Those are the three designation areas that will indicate you're a handicapped person and you need those spots. So when someone's taking that spot, you've got to go a further distance to get to where you want to go. And I have relatives that are handicapped, and I think this is why it bothers me so much, because I have had to drive them around, and when I can't find a spot, it's irritating. I can stop and let them out to walk inside, and then I can find something further away and then walk into the building. But it really shouldn't have to be that way, especially if they're the ones that are driving themselves to their own appointment. Some of these videos aren't working right now, so if we were in class, I'd be able to play these. But for whatever reason, I can't find the designation in my hard drive. I think it's because I'm on a desktop, and I usually teach with my laptop, and I haven't been able to transfer over some of these videos. I can show you with backing. Now, this is a picture or video that I showed of an elderly person that had a difficult time backing out of a parking driveway. And it took them over a minute to get out of their driveway out into the flow of traffic. They would stop, wait for cars to go by, go out a little bit further, stop, and go a little bit further. It doesn't have to be that way. So let's kind of write down some of the things that, now this is information that you should write down because they're going to be testing you on your driving test. How well is your technique with backing or parking? So that's what we're talking about today. So let's take this step by step. When you go into your driveway, put your car in a place where you're going to be successful to back out of your driveway. So not too close to a car, not too close to the edge of the driveway near the grass, because you don't want the front end swinging over into the grass. On your driving test, make sure you know your right from your left. You'd be surprised how many people don't know when it comes to reverse which way to turn the wheel. So when they tell you back to the right, they're telling you which way the back end of your vehicle is going. So write this down. Use your directional to the right. That's reinforcing which way you're turning the wheel and which way the back end of your car is going. You should always use your mirrors and look over your shoulder. And I will tell you, and I didn't put this in the PowerPoint, but they do allow you to use backup cameras now. But do not rely solely on the backup camera. So look in your rear view, side view mirror, look over your shoulder, use the backup camera. But always stop at the end of the driveway to hesitate for the moment to check for traffic, because you never want to pull out into heavy traffic and then you want to end in the correct lane. Let me show you, and I did this just the other day. I'm starting to make my own videos. So here's one with backing. So let me see if this works. So there's the directional. Coming down to the end of the driveway, we're looking both ways, making sure we're ending in our lane. Notice the wheels are straight. See how centered the car is in the lane? So now let's take a look what it looks like from the left. So we're doing the same thing as we said before. Put our left signal on, go down towards the edge of the driveway, hesitate, look both ways. You go halfway out now, do not turn right at the edge. You go halfway out, bring the bumper out, waiting for the car to get straight going up. Here is where we get the wrong way. A lot of times when I'm students do it for the first time, they don't do it correctly. Stop, look how the car ends in the middle of the road. If you both ways, and now they're facing your head out. That's not the way to do it. So, signal, stop, check both ways. Now that you're going to turn the wheel and end straight in your lane. And then just practice this. You be very, very good at this. The more you practice, something no hesitation. You're not messing up on any of the points. Everything is the same. Every backing maneuver was like the last one. And that's what you should be. Now, I didn't do a video for angle parking. So you're going to have to just write this one down. Angle parking is the easiest of all parkings. It's usually found in a downtown area, fast food restaurants, and we want traffic to go in one direction. So make sure you write down your notes. Angle parking always goes in one direction. So the way you come into the parking lot is not the way that you're going to be leaving. Okay? You can park in either direction with ease. So it's just as easy to park to the left as it is parking to the right. But if you do, as you approach your parking spot, if you move just a little bit over to the right when you park to the left, or if you move a little bit to the left if you park to the right, you are going to gain a little bit more distance to be turning your wheel and getting into your parking spot. And the key to angle parking is to start turning when your side mirror is even with the first line of your parking spot. So you're driving up straight until you look to the left or look to the right, depending which way you're going, and your side mirror has just gone by or just even with that first line of your parking spot, and then you're turning in. Now, once you're halfway in, you should straighten your wheel and go up the last 3 or 4 feet. Okay? You don't want to get all the way in with crooked car or crooked wheels. Halfway in, your vehicle should be parallel to the lines or cars that are near you. You should be straightening up your wheel and then going the rest of the way in. Now, backing up, you're just going to do it in reverse. So you're going to go halfway out straight, look both ways, and then slowly turning the wheel in the direction you want your back end to go. So with angle parking, you have to back the way that you parked. So if you park to the left, you got to back to the left. If you park to the right, you got to back to the right. So that's pretty simple. Perpendicular parking is probably the most difficult parking that there is, and this was probably the first video that I did for my YouTube channel. So I kind of shortened it down. It was a little bit longer than what I'm going to show you, which is about a 10-minute video. But I find it's one of the more difficult types of parking. So here you're going to remember that traffic will be approaching you from both directions. Okay? It'll be coming up behind you and it'll be coming towards you. It is easier to park to the left than it is to the right. So be picky on the spot that you take. And start turning your wheels when your front bumper is even with the first parking line. And we'll see that in the video. So halfway in, just like with angle parking, you're going to be straightening up your wheel and then working on positioning. Backing up, go halfway out, check traffic both directions. Now you can back to the left. It doesn't matter which way that you back, but usually it's a little bit easier backing to the left than it is to the right, especially if you have cars that are next to you. And the other thing too with perpendicular, probably more than angle parking, is watch out for the cars that are behind you, because you never know when another car could be backing out at the same time that you're backing. So let's take a look at perpendicular.
One of the problems with perpendicular parking, it's the approach. Most people don't understand, or they forget, that it's two-way traffic. So you should always be in the correct lane as you approach. If you try to cheat to go into a parking spot early, you're bound to cut off your lines and your angles. When parking to the left, you should be as far as you possibly can at the end of the painted lines of the parking spots that are next to you. You should look out your side window. You should line up your shoulder with one of the parking lines. If you take a look out the window from the driver's seat, your shoulder will be lined up with a parking line prior to the parking spot that you're going to be taking. The front bumper is now even with the first line of the parking spot you'll be parking in. Put on your signal, lightly let go of the brake, and gradually turn the wheel to the left. You still should be able to see the left parking light underneath your side mirror as you start to approach into your parking spot. Once you are straight, straighten up your wheel and go to the end of your parking spot. As you approach into your parking spot, use the lines of the parking spot in front of you to help center yourself in your parking spot, making sure that you do not go through the end line into the parking spot in front of you. Here's a car that is going in the middle of the traveling lane, starting to turn the wheel before the front bumper gets to the first line. So you're coming at an angle. You're probably cutting off a little bit of the left line and you're turning extremely sharp to get into your parking spot. Now you're in your parking spot, you're parallel to your lines, but if there were parked cars, you would have a problem. Now we're approaching the same parking spot, but we're going beyond the shoulder line, beyond the bumper with the first line. Now we're going to go far over into the right side of a parking spot, backing into the left spot, and now you're in your parking spot. Very close to the right side of the line of your parking spot. Plenty of room off to the left. It doesn't look that bad from the outside, but if there was a car to the right of us, we would have hit it. So let's just kind of go back and do each of those maneuvers and set up cones with a piece of wood and see if we would have hit cars. Okay, what we've done is we've set up some safety cones with a thin piece of wood to simulate where a side of a vehicle would be. We're basically about a foot off the line on either side. One of the problems with a vehicle, it does give you a reference as you pull in. Now we're going to lose these cones as we go into our parking spot, and that's very common for a new driver. They lose sight of what is to the left or the right of the vehicle because they're focused so much onto the front part of the car. So let's get in the car and take a look at not having good angles coming into your parking spot. I'm approaching from the middle of the traveling lane. I'm going to start my turn a little bit early. This is a common problem for most people. They try to get in at the very top of the white line, and then they find that they're going to hit the car to the right, so they turn real sharp to the left. Now you notice that we didn't hit the cones, but we are on the line to the left of our parking spot. Never want to hit a car again. This time we're going to go a little bit beyond the shoulder line, the bumper with the first line of your parking spot. So this is going to be a late turn into a parking spot. So here we are turning very, very lately. As you see, hitting the cone, hitting the wood. It would have been a car. If you have a new driver, you don't have a safety brake where you could stop the car. You've just had your first crash. Let's talk about one of the most difficult things of perpendicular parking. Maybe not so much getting in, but a lot of people forget that they've got to get out of their parking spot. And a lot of times when you're going to be backing to the right, now you can back to the left or to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, but here's a person that only looks to the right, doesn't look to the left, and starts turning the wheel way too early. Notice, hits the piece of wood. That would be scraping up on the side of a car. You now have another crash. because you don't focus your attention to the front of the vehicle. Let's go back in and do it the right way. Okay, let's talk about how to get out of a parking spot correctly and safely. You have a choice. You can back to the left or you could back to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, so it doesn't matter which way that you go. I prefer always backing to the left because it's going to be a wider turn. It's not going to be quite as sharp as the one to the right. But the most important thing to remember about backing out of a perpendicular parking spot is to have your rear view mirror and your side view mirrors adjusted, because even though you're focusing your attention to the right or to the left, what could be coming down the traveling lane, you got to remember there are parked cars behind you in a busy parking lot. And if they're backing out at the same time that you're backing out, and they're not looking at you and you're not looking at them, you are now on a crash course and you're going to hit each other. So my recommendation for backing out of any parking spot is to go out left, right, check, go out 6 inches, stop, look again, go out a little bit further, check, check. When you see that no one's coming and you're halfway out would bring your body to the end of the painted parking lines on either side. No one's backing out of a parking spot. No traffic is coming down in either direction. You now can perform your maneuver to the left. So we're going to turn sharp to the left, and that is going to bring us way over onto the left side of the parking lot. Then we can straighten up. You may not be able to get fully straight, but at least you're not going to be hitting a car backing out of a parking spot. Let's take a look at what it would look like if you were to back out from the right. So let's go back into the parking spot. We line up our shoulder with the line prior to the parking spot that we want. We check our rear view mirror, no traffic's coming towards us. We start our turn, we do hand over hand for a quicker, smoother turn. We're coming into our parking spot, we're almost completely straight. We use the lines in front of us. We straighten up our wheel. We go the rest of the way in, trying to get equal space on both sides. So let's back to the right. So putting on your signal, looking both directions, going out 6 inches or so, checking, going out a little bit further, because if there was a car coming, they'd see your backup lights and they would stop to let you out. Now we're at the very end of the painted lines to the right and to the left of us. We are now going to gradually turn to the right till we cleared the car to the left, and now we turn the rest of the way. But notice you're not going to be able to get straight because you have to back out halfway. This is when you put it in drive, you straighten up your car, and you get over into the correct side of your traveling lane. Now for the most difficult way to perpendicular park is to the right. The reason being is traffic is supposed to stay over to the right. But in order to get into that parking spot between the cones, I have to bring my vehicle all the way over as far as I can to the end of the painted lines to the left of me. I am still going to line up my shoulder with the line of the parking spot prior to the parking spot that I want. I put on my signal, and now I start my turn. Hand over hand. Notice I'm not going to hit the cone to the left, which is very common. I wait till I'm straight, and I straighten up my wheel. I approach my parking spot to the furthest point to the left. I line up my shoulder with the line prior to my parking spot. I hesitate. I let go of the brake. I go hand over hand. Watch that I don't hit the cone with the wood. That would be a car. I straighten up my wheel. And now I'm perfectly centered in my parking spot. I approach my parking spot as far to the left as I possibly can without getting too close to the cars that are to the left of me. I line up my shoulder with a line prior to the spot that I want. I hesitate for a moment. I let go of the brake. I go hand over hand. Notice the left corner is not getting too close to the cones in the board where there would be a car. I wait till I'm straightened up. And now I'm centered in my parking spot, making sure that I don't go too deep. Okay, now we're going to back out of the parking spot. Most people that park to the right will have a tendency to want to back out to the right. So what they normally don't do is they don't use your signal. You got to remember, when you use the signal coming out of a parking spot, it gets people attention. A lot of people say, why do I have to use my directional with backing out of a parking spot? There is no guessing which way the car is going. They see the backup lights, they see the directional, it gets their attention. You don't want people to be backing up the same time that you are. You don't want people going around your vehicle while you're trying to get out. So you look over your right shoulder if you're backing to the right, you look both ways, you go out about 6 inches. You want people to see your backup lights, your directional. If no one's coming by and you can't see, you're going to go out a little bit further. When you're about halfway out, you're going to start to slowly turn to the right. Notice we're no longer going to hit that piece of wood. Now we're going to be a little bit crooked, but what we do is we stop, we straighten up our wheel, and we pull over to the correct side of the road if more traffic is going to be coming down the parking spot. Okay, cones are much cheaper than cars. These are
Okay, here's a person that opened up their angle way too wide, and the person that's filming this is in that blue truck.
God. Is she serious?
They just got hit.
I hope she's trying to turn
She
around.
doesn't realize she just
No,
bumped
she's
into
not.
this
She's
blue
gonna
truck.
hit the truck. Yep, she hit us.
See right there. I would be
This is
so
fine,
embarrassed.
dude.
You should always be aware that there are people in their vehicle that you're parking next to, in front of your parking spot, or behind you. Look at, she's waving
Did you
cars
feel
on.
that? Yeah. She hit
She's
us.
gonna try it again.
Yeah, you feel it as soon as she. That's why her fucking car's all dented up on the side, because you don't know how to fucking drive.
So you're just gonna make sure
She hit
that
us
you
again.
have a good concept of how to do this.
She's gonna go tell her something. Oh, wow.
Now they got hit again.
Yeah.
Okay, not good, not good at all. Okay, now he's gonna get out in front of her, and she's gonna drive away. This is where road rage could take place. Okay, this should never ever happen. Okay? That should never ever happen. So let's go through the steps for parallel parking. And remember, there are different ways to do it. So the way that I teach it is slightly different. I do it in those 3 easy steps. So now we're going to even add a few more steps to make it um, a little bit easier to follow through, because I gave it kind of quick and I didn't explain thoroughly. So you need to stop before the parking spot you're going to take, because if you do have traffic behind you, you want them to stop and give you enough time to pull forward next to the car in front of the empty parking spot and then the back end. Now you need to pull up about 2 feet away from the car that's in front of your parking spot. And what I would do is go mirror to mirror if your car is about the same size as the car that you're pulling up next to. So if your car is the same size as their car, go mirror to mirror. If it's a pickup truck, they got a long bed, then maybe go your side mirror with their door handle. And then you're going to try to turn the wheel all the way to the right so it can't go any further. You're going to create a 45-degree angle now that you're in reverse, and you're going to start backing up. Now, once you've got that 45-degree angle, you're going to straighten your wheel. And basically, if you're looking at your right side mirror, and the right side mirror, I should have mentioned, is tipped down. If you've got the side mirror to the right tipped down, you'll see the back of your parking spot in your side view mirror, and you'll see when you've got your 45-degree angle, because the back parking line will disappear. Go back straight until you're about a foot from the curb, and then turn all the way to the left. As you turn all the way to the left, let go of the brake a little bit, let the car start moving again, and you're going to let the side of your car just kind of straighten itself out, and you don't want to overshoot the back line of your parking space, and then you're going to reposition your vehicle. So let me show you what that would look like. So
Let's take a look today at one of the hardest driving maneuvers, parallel parking.
Okay, so we're going to take a look at the 3 steps that I told you about. So now you're going to approach. As we said, you're going to put you're going to stop your car before the spot if there was someone behind you. You're going to put your right signal on and tip your right side mirror down. So there's the 2 feet, mirror to mirror. Now we turn the wheel all the way to the right. Now we're going to start to back up because our wheel is all the way to the right. And in our side mirror, we're going to see that back line. Now watch that white line way back there. Make it disappear. It's almost gone. It's gone. See, right now it's gone. So now we straighten up our wheel. We back up straight to we're about a foot away. We're almost a foot away from the curb. Now we're turning all the way left. Now we're going to put it in drive. Oh, I'm going to show you from an overhead. You're almost straight. We're at the back line. We can use our backup camera. Now we reposition our vehicle. Now to get out of the parking spot, we check our rear view mirror, side view mirror. We use our directional. And then we pull out of our parking spot when we want to leave.
3 easy steps to parallel parking: right, straight, and left. What's so hard about parallel parking? With a little bit of practice, anybody can do it.
It really isn't that complicated. In all the years that I've been teaching, I can't remember hitting a vehicle behind us. Now we've hit the curb a few times. We actually hit the curb once and got a flat tire. And we don't hit the car in front ever. It really isn't that hard if you break it down to steps. The problem with most people is they don't know. They know what they want the car to do, but they don't know the angles. They don't know how quickly or how fast to move the vehicle. So once you learn that, it's pretty simple. And then the last type of parking that we're going to talk about is backing into perpendicular parking spots. I haven't been able to do a video for this one, just like I didn't do a video for angle yet. Maybe with the next 2 weeks. with some of this free time, I'll be able to put them together. But I was just able to do the driveway and parallel parking for your class. So approach an empty parking spot about 5 feet away from the spot that you're going to be taking. So you're in a perpendicular parking lot. So at the end of the white parking lines, you want to be about 5 feet away from it. And you want to go 3 spots from the one that you want. So pick a spot that you want. You look out your side mirror or window where your side mirror is and start counting lines. Go up 3 lines from the parking spot that you want. 1, 2, 3. And line up your body, your shoulder with that third line. Turn on your directional. This is indicating that you're going to be backing to the right. So when your car is in reverse now, they're going to know you're backing to the right. Now we want to let go of the brake a little bit to bring our car back just a little bit more towards the spot we're going to be backing into. And when your body moves past that shoulder line about a foot, that's going to put your back bumper just before your parking line. Then you're going to turn the wheel all the way to the right. Turn the wheels very sharp to the right. And now using your side mirror, just like we did with parallel parking. So this is where mirror backing is going to come into play. When you start driving with me, we're going to have one lesson in reverse. So we'll see how well you do with backing. You want to use your side mirrors and guide your vehicle, let the side of your car guide your vehicle into your parking spot with the parking line that's to the right of your vehicle. Now, once your right side of your vehicle is parallel with the white parking line, you're going to straighten your wheels. So you're going to probably be halfway into your parking spot, and then you're going to back the rest of the way in. Okay? Now, in your notes, they probably will not make you do parallel parking on your driving test because they have to set it up, and it's very difficult for them to do that. So this is why I want you to underline or make a asterisk or star. You're more than likely going to have to back into a perpendicular parking spot. So this type of parking is more common if you go to Dover Point. Now they could have you do angle or perpendicular like we've covered already today, but this is the challenging one that they can throw at you. They don't make you do multiple parking spots. They'll probably give you one to do. So whether they throw this at you, you just got to be ready for it. There's no guarantee that you're going to do angle, so don't just study one type of parking. You should be pretty fluent and feel adequate in every type of parking that there is. And anyways, even if it's more than just getting your license, you want to be able to do this once you do have your license so you don't have, you know, sharing paint with other cars. There's nothing worse than, sharing paint because people get really upset. You didn't do any major damage, but you're going to, put some paint on the side of somebody else's car. They're not going to be too happy about that. So that's perpendicular. I don't know why that didn't come through. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So that is a quick overview of parking. All right. So the remainder of what we have, so it's going to be a little bit early. This is going to take you a little bit longer. I am going to send you a link to your midterm. All right. So at the end, when I punch out of today's broadcast, I want you to text me the word midterm. Okay. If you text me the word midterm, you get a midterm to take. Okay. I want you to try to do it on your own. I don't want you going through the manual and doing stuff like that. I want you to try it on your own with the knowledge that you're gaining. All right. Now, let's just say you don't do well. It's not the end of the world. We're at the halfway point. We've got another 2.5 weeks to go. More information to go over, but this gives you some idea of what you're retaining and what you don't. I'm going to make the passing score an 80 because that's what it's going to be for your state driving test. Take your time. It's all multiple choice. And we'll see how you do. Now, once I send you the link, this is the password. So write this down. This is the password to get in, to take the test. So you're going to put your name and your email and that should get you in with a password to the testing site. And I believe I made it 80 questions, multiple choice. Should take you about 25 minutes, okay? Maybe a half hour. But I'm going to give you more time, so don't feel rushed. I think I gave you a whole 60 minutes. So if you want to take longer on it, but you can. But there's your password, okay? Let me see how many people are still here with us. We got everybody. Let me see if I can get up my screen here. Oh, we got 17. So that ends today's lesson. We're going to cover driving emergencies. So in your sheet for driving emergencies, it's chapter 15 and section 10 in the state manual. So read that, do the chapter questions like you've been doing in the textbook. Text that to me by tomorrow's class, and you'll be all set for tomorrow's class on driving emergencies. So have a good night, and once you text me, I'll send you the midterm. Good luck. See you tomorrow.